Alright, so today at Surfers we're really honored. We have the Zimmer Style board designer, shaper Ola, and pro rider Mark for Zimmer Style. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the boards today. So first of all, this is the Flywave.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the concept of the board. How did it come up?
I mean, it has a long story because this was from the beginning the Freewave rocker that we have. And the initial story is that I made 2 Freewaves right when I started with Zimmer. So this was like in 2011. And I was gonna test it with Kai on Maui. And we rented all these other brands' boards. And it was only one day when we overlapped. So we had to do this day. And it was like, 1.5 mast at Kanaa. So we took it out and it was far too big because it was an 85 for me. But already then I felt that this rocker had something, it had a very secure feel on a big wave. So then later, when Kai wanted a board for PI, for Jaws, we based the rocker on the Freewave rocker with a V and everything. And then we had a lot of other different ideas with the Fly at that point. But at some point, Kai wanted to try the rocker from PI board for a Hookipa board, so we made like a pintail version. So we took the Fly that we had and made a little bit shorter and so on with this rocker. And then you came in, I think. And first for you, we made something completely different. I forgot even that you didn't like. It was more like the old Fly with more rocker.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was in Portugal actually. We talked, and then we came up kind of with this concept. And this was actually after I had started to do a little bit of V stuff for my own boards, or this. I mean this. Tail.
We can maybe flip it because they had like a bit of wingers.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the tail shape. You have like the cutout here.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of against that for a long time, but still, so I thought, well, why do you do it? And some say you do it to get a narrower tail, but that actually doesn't matter because you can just put it in and do a pintail. The thing is, what you can do is that you can change the curvature. I mean, you can't really, or it looks very ugly to go from a curvy thing to a straight thing. But if you do this little thing, then it's okay to do it, visually. So this actually does 2 things, because first it's straight here, and straightness gives grip. So it gives in the top turn you get more grip and stability, so it's easier to kind of nail the top turn if you want to do a carve. But then it's also pulled in a little bit like this, if you see. So it comes from a certain direction, then it's pulled in. And that affects mainly the bottom turn. So then when you kind of release you push the bottom and then you release it, then it's gonna pivot a little bit. Like this kind of thing. Or do you agree?
Yeah. So how much input you shaping and you trying it and you giving straight input for Ola, or does it work for you?
No, we talk a lot, even more now, but even then, because we were sitting when we were conceptualizing this for I don't know, a long time over some I don't know, Skype or whatever it was then. So we kind of made it up, and you wanted the kind of little bit pointier nose and a certain nose length, right? Yeah. So you remember?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, for me, it kind of, I think it's all based on the same rocker as you said, but I remember it was when I got the Cortex actually, that kind of I was like, oh, there is something here. And then it was when we stepped into this, which was basically, the first one was like an 85 liter, based on the Cortex 84, just with the pulled in nose, like a normal nose and pulled in, and slightly more pulled in tail, and with a swallowtail as well, instead of the diamond that the Cortex had.
Exactly. Yeah, so that was actually, because in the earlier stage when I made that one for Kai, that was when I also made the Cortex for myself. So those are kind of the same rockers, but I made the Cortex for me as an experiment, and then you got the Cortex, and then we moved to this. Yeah,
exactly.
But we did some small things with the first ones. We changed a little bit. You had 2 85s, right? Or?
I had one at the beginning, and then we did the 78, which is the one that went in production. and the 78 just had a little bit more tail kick, and the tail was slightly bit more pulled in as well, and just shorter than the 85. And then after that we made the 94, and yeah, which I think it ended up being the production as well.
Well, it didn't really, because then we had already sent all the boards to the builders.
Okay.
So that's ironically that is a later generation, because then we didn't do anything on this.
Yeah.
All the years it has been the same, just construction stuff. But the 99, which we don't have here, it is more like the 94.
Okay.
So, and the 72 actually also, it's more like the 94, because the 94 has a little bit of a shorter tail.
Yeah. And then I think that later on, it was like right before I moved away from Simmer for a few years, then we made another 85, which that one had a slightly higher entry, if you remember. It was like a same overall curve, but a slightly higher entry. And that one actually was very nice. It was very smooth, and yeah, it was a very smooth board. And then I think there was like a 78 of that, which was the one with the squash tail.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And,
but you never rode that?
I never rode that, no.
Oh.
So.
But it's as you mentioned, you did on the smaller boards, you put it a little bit more like curve in the tail now,
Yeah, that's true. That's a little bit difference between all.
So how much are you thinking, like when you sizing down a board, and when I remember when you didn't do the 99 flyway from the beginning, and you wanted to make like a bigger board. How is your thoughts about that? It's not just like scaling up the boards, it's...
No, so it's kind of, first you have to, you almost decide for a volume.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to think about how do I get the volume, and you can add a little bit of length, but as you see, I mean, if you add, you can think of adding like 2 centimeters here or whatever, but that's not a whole lot of volume. And width actually it doesn't do so much either, because you can think of it as slicing, you know, something in the big. So you only get a few liters, so you have to make it thicker and so on. But so that's kind of the basics. You decide for some dimensions, and you know, fix the volume by making it thicker and so on. But then it comes to more advanced details, and that is how you're gonna scale up or change the rocker. And I never scale the rockers in that way. I like multiplying, you know. So I always construct them a little bit from scratch, in the sense. So if we look at this one, so if I'm gonna make a 99 or 92 of this, normally I kind of add a little bit here. You know, so I keep the same rocker, but I add a little bit more flatness in the center. So it's like more like moving the actual curve forwards. And this is because of, if you're a bigger person, you're going to sail a bigger sail, you're going to push down on the board more, you're going to kind of need a little bit more support. So usually they are kind of the same scooping, you know, in a sense. But then I might also, for the bigger boards, flatten out the rocker a little bit towards the tail. So for example, the 94 has a little bit flatter tail, and the 99 has the same then. And then in this case, with the 99, I actually, as we said, I have a shorter tail. And this is because we now knew it worked actually, so it makes the board snappier.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of small things that you need to adjust the positions a little bit, because you're going to be a bigger person. So you maybe want more spread. And this one I always measure like this. So the measurement I use for this, it's not from the tail or anything. I just use this. The center from the strap to this point of the front screw.
Right, yeah.
So I keep that. That's my base idea. So I know kind of what, and this makes a huge difference. So if you look at different boards, I mean, there's actually very big difference between different brands and stuff. And what happens is actually, if you move it back, you get the whole rig closer to your foot, and then you can maneuver the rig much easier. But you risk, you know, falling off. but so this makes the board much snappier. But also, if you want a bigger sail, you maybe need it a little bit more forwards. Do you believe me?
I believe you.
But you run it in the middle, or?
Yeah, well, I've been playing around a little bit, but mainly I just ride it here.
Okay.
Yeah. just because I feel like it's where I can pivot, as you say, and turn the tightest. And yeah, sometimes I just sacrifice that over other things.
Yeah.
I find for example, if I slide it forward, it's like a bit more planted, a bit more steady in the planing. And for moves like tackles and stuff, it's easier because then basically you have a little bit less nose in front of you. So then it's kind of easier to pivot around it. And then, but yeah, normally I just put it back. I have like let's say the circle of the base plate. I have it scratching the beginning of the square.
Yeah. And you also use them kind of the
spread. Yeah, exactly. I have them all the way forward here and all the way back there. Yeah. I did with the 78, for example. I tried to move it around a little bit. One hole actually. Not much in the back foot, so instead of using it all the way back, I had one forward, and I didn't like it. It felt it stiffened up the board too much, and it felt like it didn't want to go then where I wanted it to go. Which is crazy if you think about it, because it's like a cm pretty much, like half a cm, 1 cm and a half, something around that. So yeah, so it does make a huge difference. Like
this kind of hard in a way, because we have all these holes, and I think people don't really mess around so much. You put them somewhere you can, but it actually is a big difference.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
All right, Mark. So please tell me a little bit about your experience. We see you ride a lot with this board.
I mean, for me, the Flywave is a super trustworthy board. You know, like I know I can take it in any kind of conditions and it's gonna perform. And one of my favorite things about it is the confidence it gives me, like throughout turns. I've had like a lot of other boards from other brands in the past, and I always had that feeling that I could never push as hard as I wanted, or I had to be careful here, I had to be careful there. And the Flywave, I know that I can just get there, just push, and I know it will hold in, and you know, I'm gonna be able to do what I want with it, and with full intent, you know, which is how I like to sail. And yeah, I ride 92, 85 and 78, with 85 being my go-to size. You know, it's a size that I can take with 4750, and at the same time I can hold it with like a 37, 34 if I need to. But yeah, then of course I have the chance to have one size up and one size down, so yeah, I use all of them. But yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, for me it's a very reliable board. That's the word. It's reliable, you know, and I feel like especially in this range of side-on conditions to side-off, I feel like it excels a lot. You know, you can really take a lot of juice out of it. You know, so for example, when I won the European back in 2019 in Denmark, it was like this kind of conditions, side-off, and it was just the board, you know, that I remember that day I just felt so comfortable on it. I was like, there's no other board that I would be riding right now, you know, I can do what I want with it. So yeah, very good board.
Yeah, for sure. I really like it as well, and I find it like so versatile. I had it in like Cape Town in good waves and side off, and I use it a lot here in Sweden with in straight dead onshore, side onshore, and it has so much range. It's overall a magic board.
I think if you're at your level and so on, so you can turn, you know, properly, then it's very good also in onshore.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's kind of the rocker. It's kind of has a lot of support here, so it's not so super curvy in this area, and that means it becomes very forgiving. So even if you don't have super high speed, it's going to carry the turn quite well, and then it's kind of compensated for with the outline stuff, so it still becomes snappy and so on.
Right. So the board comes with 4 fins. You have 5 fin option. So why did you put it like with a quad, and what do you ride, Mark, with the board?
Yeah.
So you can start.
I honestly now I've been riding quads a lot, and I remember I rode it as a thruster a lot, the 85 especially, and I really loved the sorry, and I really loved the feeling of it with the thruster, because be a bit more back-footed and aggressive and snappy off the top, which I really enjoyed. But I got some new front fins now, they're asymmetric, so I've been riding a lot of quad lately because I feel I can get this quick change of direction of the back foot like the thruster setup was giving me, but at the same time I have like the control and the drive of the quad. So I've been really enjoying the quad setup at the moment, and yeah.
So what do you, when you ride the board, do you use quad as well? Or, yeah?
So I kind of go between, and I also use asymmetric fronts always, like surf fins. And I think like if it's like choppy and you want to have control and stuff, but also if it's like a tighter wave where you really need to go like in front of it and really tight back, then I like quads.
Yeah.
It's because it's, I mean, there's two different things that they do for me. But then sometimes if I want a little bit more drive, if it's like sections you want to go around, but it's smooth and otherwise, then I can use a thruster because it helps me a little bit to project out of the bottom turn. But I use then quite small rear fins, you know, and this makes a huge difference for me because it's because I'm also used to the quad, so I want this, you know, really reactive feel. So it's more reactive, it's quicker. Yeah. So if I go towards like a 16 or 17, that's just I don't want to say that. So I have like a 14 or you know, something in the back. Yeah. So then it's, but it depends because what happens is that you can, if you upsize the rear fin or even go to twins, which is actually quite good on this one, then you lift the nose a little bit. so the board becomes a little bit faster maybe and so on. So I think, I mean, I can say just to finish up, I mean, for me, I think it's kind of easy to position the boxes so that you can use a lot of fin. And you have to think a little bit about the board design. But for me, this is, it opens up so many different options. So people can like just leave what the board is delivered with it and sail it, of course. But you really have a lot of more tuning if you want, if you have the 5 boxes.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great board. We love it. And yeah, thanks for having you here, Ola and Mark from Simmer Style.